Here we go, the Teaching a Rockstar podcast. On today's show, I have my pal Seth, and I met Seth online through Facebook, and we messaged, I messaged back, and we had a conversation about teaching and kids, and how some days are really, really hard. And I knew, man, I had to get him on the show. And Seth is a fascinating dude. He has an interesting perspective, and he's really self-aware and vulnerable and honest about teaching in schools. And I love it, man. It is refreshing. All right, so without further ado, episode 42 with Seth. Let's do this. All right, man. Hey, man. What time is it there?
It is 6:46.
Yeah, long day, huh?
It was a fun day.
Man, this teaching thing is supposed to be fun. I think people forget about that.
Oh, it's always fun. You have to put it in perspective.
Here's the thing, man. I always say that, like, if you can't find, like, that's a key, man, of a career, like a long career is being able to find the funny. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And there's a lot of comedy in it, even on the bad days.
It's but like after it's over on a Friday and looking back on it, that stuff is funny. In the moment, not so much.
You would hope so. So I would just want to say, first and foremost, I have been super excited since you asked me to do this.
Awesome.
Like, I cannot begin to tell you, like, as soon as you asked me, I texted all of my teacher friends. I was like, Hal Bowman asked me to be on his podcast. And I was seriously for like maybe 10 minutes, and this was before the Oscars, 10 minutes like a rock star, and then Queen performed. And so I kind of lost this. But I am like, I bow to you. Like, I'm just so in awe of you. I'm totally fangirling right now. I own it. I'm fangirling. I just absolutely love your work. So whoever, if this is part of the official podcast part,
I record everything.
Just know that I'm fangirling, and I don't care what your listeners think. I'm having my fangirl moment.
Here's the thing, man. What it is, dude. I'm so passionate about teaching and teachers and education and kids and making a difference in the lives of kids. And when I come across somebody like you that is equally passionate, I mean, you can tell by the stuff you post and just our conversations online, is that like you get it, and like you're one of those teachers that deep down inside, you know, after all the jokes and the hard days, but deep down inside, like at the core of you, like you want to be one of the most influential people in the lives of your kids, and I love that.
Well, and that actually comes from a place of, and this is where I'm seeing a lot of my research in my doctorate program going to.
Yeah.
It comes from when I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed with late onset anxiety disorder.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that when I got diagnosed, because I had to go to rehab for it, and I'm very open with it. Like, I tell the kids, once I feel comfortable with them, I share with them. I went to rehab. I'm recovering. And I do that to show them that the anxiety and the problems that they're going through right now, it's all temporary.
Yeah.
It's all temporary. But when I was going through it, I thought, okay, I have these mental issues. I can't be a teacher. I cannot be a teacher. You know, you have to be on your A game all the time. You can't show the kids that you have weaknesses. But as I was going through, especially learning about PBIS, trauma-based education, restorative practices, there has to be, that earned trust comes from a form of vulnerability. So when like I hear teachers saying, oh my God, these kids are horrible, these kids are this, these kids are that, I say, but what if, you know, if you knew me as a kid and I acted that way, but it's because of my disorder, am I a horrible person?
So true, man. You know, here's the thing, like, everybody has a story. And I think we forget, oftentimes, you know, as adults, not always, oftentimes as an adult, we are looking back at our own story, But we forget, like, that kid is right in the middle. They are in the peak of their story of that's transpiring in their life, and it's the story that's going to have an impact for the rest of their lives. And like the crazy part, like these kids walking down the hall, you can look at every kid in the eye, and like you never know what's really going on in that kid's life. And I always tell people, whether it's it's my gangster kind of student that I have that lives in the apartment complex that fights the other apartment complex at night and they go back, or if it's the kid in a big beautiful home with what appear to be, they give us the perception of awesome parents and go to church and youth group, but man, you never know what's really going on in that home. Every kid has a story.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I think like when we have teachers like you that are in touch and like so self-aware of their own story, like what they're going through, I think that is what opens you up to being more compassionate, towards your own kids.
But what I will say about that, because I'm vulnerable with my own students,
Yeah.
trying to communicate that to other professionals, they view it as, okay, you're the kumbaya teacher,
Right.
you're the weird teacher, like that how does that equal test scores? Okay, well, here's the thing, and this is the problem I have with education, and what really irks me, because I had to do a whole paper on this last night. ESSA, when it was reformed, for those that aren't with our education acronyms, Every Student Succeeds Act basically says to No Child Left Behind, go away. It's now time for new things.
Right.
It has said you don't have to make the test scores the central focus. It says it in the language. But yet, we have high suspension rates, all these different things, and then the kids don't do well on the test. And I teach intensive reading. Like, I have the bottom of the barrel, as people keep on reminding me, which I'm like, you can find some good stuff at the bottom of the barrel, so don't tell me I have the bottom of the barrel.
That's where all the concentrate is, right there.
So I always say to people, we can't really focus on the test scores without looking at the person. Because I was a horrible test taker. Like, I still to this day don't know how I got into Harvard. I still to this day do not understand, because on my GRE, I had a 900.
Were you thinking, was there some sort of a clerical mix-up?
I started thinking, did I date somebody and they had contact? Like, what happened?
Yeah,
because the drama kid, we start creating the soap opera story.
Right, man. Here's my theory for me, because I was in high school. I was the valedictorian of the fourth quarter. I was number one in the fourth quarter. so here's where I imagine how I get into college. I imagine there's a lady, like some sort of administrative assistant that works in the applications office, and what happens is she's walking down the hall. She has all the files for those that got in and those that were declined. And my theory is she sneezes, drops them all on the floor, and can't remember who's in and who's out, and just puts them together as best she can. And that's how I got into college. That's my theory.
I look at it as that it was partially regionalism, because they thought I was from Tallahassee. As my shirt says,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see my shirt. I'm a teacher and a Seminole, so I'm basically perfect.
Right.
So I think it was Tallahassee, and two, maybe they just felt that because I got a 900 on the GRE.
Right. So, man, you have an interesting history. So this is, dude, this opens up a lot of thoughts and ideas about why you might be successful with your kids, and that is, since you have talking about a GRE, is apparently you did not have a traditional academic successful path through school.
So I was very successful in school, but if you look at my test scores, they were average. But what I did really well was I went to a magnet school.
Okay, for art, for theater.
No, for theater.
Yep, my kid goes to a magnet school for theater.
Yeah, it to me it was Glee. It was Glee. It was Fame. It was all those different things rolled into one. And I actually teach there now. That's
Really?
The full circle. Yeah. My first teaching job was with them.
Uh-huh.
I left, and now I'm back.
So I try to explain this about my daughter's high school. I tell people like whatever you see in the movie, it's really like that. Like they do sing. There is a musical happening in the lunchroom on a Thursday.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah,
happening. Yeah,
we're doing for my semantics class. We're doing a module about Hamilton, the musical. Literally, just mention what's my name, dude. They start blasting. I'm like, that's not what I wanted, but okay.
right.
But I was that musical theater geek. I mean, one person could say 500, and then we start singing 25,600 minutes.
Yeah.
But I was not a very good test taker when it came to college. So my path started kind of becoming uncertain, and this was right around the time where the crash happened.
Yep.
When I just bottomed out, because I was class of 2010. I know I look 300 years old, but yes, that was class of 2010. So I was like, I don't know. But it was that one teacher, and I will always remember that one professor, and I'm still friends with her to this day. I'm going to do a shout out, Dr. Shelby Whitty, who said to me, don't continue with our program. Go for the goal. Go above. Yeah. And then I tried for Harvard and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt eliminated me first round. Harvard accepted me. Still don't know how it happened, but I took the opportunity and just went with it.
Sure. Not asking questions. I'm just going to show up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what made it an interesting travel was that I worked then in inner city Boston for a year and a half. So I got to see a totally 360 from Florida.
That's a whole different kid, man.
Yeah. But I actually enjoyed South Boston kids a lot more than my Floridian kids. But then I also kind of got this sassiness within me, a kind of a mixture between Mary Poppins and Tyler Perry's Medea that I had to put in check.
Right.
Because one thing is like, you can build relationships with kids, but you can't bring out the big guns as far as the performance factor until they understand that you're crazy enough to try it.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, but that whole Boston thing for you, because Florida's an interesting place. In fact, I don't know if we talked about it, but that was one of my favorite. I like to quote our nation's deepest thinkers, and one of those people is Jerry Springer, of course. And Jerry Springer on his show, he said, "If there was no Florida, I would not have had a show."
Every time people ask me, where are you from? Florida. And they're like, oh, that's America's backyard.
Right.
And I'm like, thanks.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. And so now at the school at which you teach that you went to, how many years, and you took some time off. So when you graduated and to the time that you went back, how many years were in there?
So I graduated 2006. I came back 2013.
All right, that's were there still educators there from when you left?
So you ready for like a very quasi full circle?
Here we go. Bring it.
The principal that hired me was the principal when I was there as a student.
Really?
Yeah. Her name is Jackie Haynes.
Uh-huh.
One of the best principals, one of my idols for thinking about what a school leader should be.
Yeah.
And she hired me, and she was my champion when I tried transitioning to a new position, and it didn't look like it was going to work. She championed me to try to help me transition out, and then she helped me transition back into the district.
Yeah.
So a shout out to Miss Haynes.
How many years have you been doing the teaching thing?
So the teaching thing. So officially, according to Florida's the retirement program, 7 years.
Right.
Unofficially, including my year in Boston, it would be roughly 8.5 years.
Let me ask you, man, from your first year, I think one of the challenges we have, just across the nation is losing some of our teachers. And for me, if you make it past that year 6 or 7, you're in pretty deep, because we lose 50% of teachers in their first 5 years. Right. So looking back, And I know that you've seen some people wash out, and the people that try it that didn't make it. And by the way, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. If this ain't for you, man. I always
No,
say,
I mean the cat doesn't lie. The cat doesn't lie either.
right.
So the cat
So,
too.
for me, like my first favorite kind of teacher is my favorite, very favorite kind of teacher of all is that teacher who finds it and they love it and they have a passion for education and making a difference. But you know what? A close second is that teacher who knows immediately it's not for them and gets out. Like I love that person. Like if this isn't for you, man, go find your passion. Like go do your thing. Just don't ride out a 35-year career with kids, man.
Right.
So for you, looking back, what for those people that you've seen that kind of washed out, what do you think it was that maybe you think there was not enough mentoring for them, or they just didn't have it? They just like it wasn't for them.
So I went to one training and they put it very interesting. They said that teaching is like being a doctor, only that doctors can save their patients their first year of residency.
That's good.
We can't really do much our first year.
Yeah.
Like the success factor is kind of becomes a juggling act.
Yep.
Now, I will say this. I actually got fired halfway through my first year of teaching.
Yeah.
Which, and I'm trying to word this very nicely. I think there were some misconceptions as to their decision, but the decision happened and I was devastated.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's it. I'm done. But then I went and got a job at a correctional facility that was a step up academy. And I best half year of my teaching career. And then I went back to Blake, where I teach now.
Yeah.
And so why do I think it happens? I think that one, the demand and the output of our job is becoming increasingly unbalanced. Two, people that go into it teach with how they were taught in mind. That's not a bad thing, but also you have to understand a lot of students, they need to see visual clips. You need to use pop culture. You need to let them use their phones in some capacity. You need to understand that homework is becoming antiquated. There's time and places for it. You always have to find ways to give pencils out, but be honest and produce accountability.
Yeah.
And just help. I think we need to just go back to being a community again.
I think you're right, man. I think it's all that, and like in addition to that, I think there's a couple of challenges that I would add into that list, and one is oftentimes those teachers that show up for this profession were like freaking awesome in school, like they were amazing and they loved it. And they had parents that were amazing parents, and they made sure they had a trapper keeper on the first day and all their school supplies, and they packed their lunch and supported them and made sure they signed up for their AP classes and made sure they were going to sit first chair with their alto sax or taking private lessons and the whole bit, making sure they had not just vocal lessons, but piano lessons. Because if you really want the lead in the musical, you got to have both. And all that was going on. And
I was bad at piano. So.
And
that's
so
probably why I never got a lead.
Right. And so, they show up to teach school and they come in, and in their class of 32 kids, they've got one or two that were like them, and the rest of them are just miserable and don't want to be here and don't like the process and don't like school and don't want to participate, and their parents don't like. And so it's a complete reality shift. And in addition to that, like on top of that, like one thing as you were talking, I thought, I think there's a personality where as a teacher, you can find evidence without having it like super concrete and obvious. Because in teaching, like the evidence of success isn't always tangible, man. Like it's always like you got to. It's not like you're gonna build something in a day. You can see your work and your progress of it at the end of the day. Like you got to be able to really kind of think emotionally. Was there a difference that was made today? And intellectually, can I sense a difference that was made today? And if you don't have that, if you have to see the tangible evidence of success, I don't think the career might work out for you.
Well, and I also. It's so funny that you mentioned that because this is the first full year I've done restorative practices.
Uh-huh.
And today I did a restorative circle with kids yesterday that were just saying shut the F up and, you go to hell, dropping faggot, which I'm like, first off, don't call them a bunch of sticks.
Right.
Like, let's think of some better words. And so I was like, okay, we're going to try this. People kept telling me, well, this could blow up in your face. And I was like, well, if it does, then guess what? I got a referral ready to go. Because I'm like,
it can't be worse than yesterday.
It can't be worse than yesterday. And actually, out of the 6 that were there, 5 out of 6 took it seriously. And they were actually asking each other questions.
Yeah.
And saying, well, why don't you try this? Like, they were actually asking questions. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, who are all of you? Where were you yesterday?
Yeah.
So I think to new teachers, you have to understand that this is not what ed school was all about. Ed school lied to you, or did not lied. Maybe did not prepare you for everything. It's never going to prepare you for everything.
Yeah.
Those that are reaching the 5-year mark, you can find different ways to increase your impact. And it's so funny that you talk about year 5, because I actually, when I reached year 5, I almost quit.
Really?
Because of an administrator who I felt attacked me for no reason, and that was making allegations against me that made no sense.
Yeah.
So I thought about quitting. I was like, that's it. I'm done. I can't do this. And so I then tried teaching at a charter school, and I was successful for about 2.5 years. And then it came to another point where it just wasn't working. And I thought, maybe this is a sign. Maybe it's time to start thinking about moving on. But why I keep on coming back to this is, one, there are those moments where you connect with the kids, and maybe it's just simply saying to them, hey, how's your day? It can be as simple as, well, tell me, how would you design the course if you wanted to teach it? And I actually did that with my intensive kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting what they wanted. Like, they told me what they wanted. And it wasn't like, oh, lots of free time. Like, some of them wanted to learn about different topics that the curriculum didn't address.
Sure.
And people are like, well, the intensive kids aren't mature enough. They're not going to get it. I took a chance, and it was my first period, so they're still waking up. So, the sugar hasn't kicked in yet. And I was flabbergasted. I was like, wow, like, you all have opinions, and your opinions need to be heard.
Yeah.
So it just shocked me about that.
Yeah, man, I love it. Those types of restorative circles, every time I hear success stories like that, that just reaffirms my belief that, it's for so many of our kids, we're overdue moving away from that whole consequence, penalty system of classroom rules, and really creating a family for those kids in that classroom. And I post those little quotes every day, and today's quote was something about it's important to remember that the home for lots of our students isn't their house, man. It's like, it's your classroom. And those restorative circles,
they're not going to tell you that.
Yeah, no, man, that, I'm cool with that. I'm good with that. I was that way too, man. I try to hide it. It's fine. And
definitely,
yeah, and looking back on my career is I taught some really challenging populations, and when we take a look at the end of the day, what was interesting, what the fascinating, it was like this phenomenon that we had at one particular school. Our most hardcore, I mean, like, real gang life kids. Like, I'm talking like they've been to, not just juvenile, but they've been to jail, and they're coming back, and now they're on campus. They'd be in trouble all day long. But when you would walk through our cafeteria at 5:15, 5:30 in the evening after school, those are the same kids that are still sitting there in the cafeteria. Those are the same kids that are sitting there in the cafeteria because this is their home, man. Like, they don't leave because this is where their family really is. And as bad as their behavior was during the day, like, the evidence of it is right there sitting there at 5:15 in the afternoon.
Well, and as my research was saying, One major factor, as you read in the blog post, one major factor that's missing is, okay, well, you have to validate the teacher too.
Yeah.
You have to, I mean, if we're doing social, emotional, restorative practices for the teacher, for the students, what are you then doing for the teacher? What are you then doing to help them out? And
Yep.
it's not, okay, let's go and do a PD on, text-based evidence, or let's learn about how to proctor this test. How about we have a restorative circle and talk about some things that are stressing us out?
Yeah.
Why
Exactly.
not practice? Because the teacher strikes that are happening, it's not all about pay. It's really not all about pay. I bet you if they increase the pay, maybe decrease the demands, and then increase something as simple as saying thank you. I mean, all organizational culture experts, all organizational analysis say, you want to change your culture, first start off by saying thank you.
Man, it has proven time. That's the crazy part. I'm like the research. It's not even debatable at this point. It's so obviously clear that appreciation, affirmation, and recognition outpaces pay every time, without exception. And I think you're right. I think obviously, to make ends meet, for sure, there needs to be teacher pay clearly. But in addition to that, you know what it is, man? It's just. Here's the difference: is when I first started teaching, I taught in a tiny little town. I'm talking like they would graduate a dozen kids. So it was like top 10% valedictorian, same kid. And but one thing about that tiny little Texas town is the level of respect and appreciation for a teacher that would move into town and to live there and to work at the schoolhouse. It really, they were so thankful and so appreciative and so respectful and so kind. And you'd be at the Dairy Queen and it was Mr. Bowman. It was and very formal because you're the teacher that chose to move to this little town to teach their kids. And I wish it just wasn't just reserved for those tiny towns, but culturally it would be, across the board, teachers could feel what that's like.
And, and currently I work on a staff of over 100 teachers. And I've been thinking, now I'm kind of going back into, well, do I want to move into leadership? Because teacher leaders in our district, I don't know if they're coming about or not coming about. Mm-hmm. I don't know where they stand on that. But I'm thinking about if I was an assistant principal, like I was even talking with a friend who's in the leadership program right now. I said I would look on the days where I didn't have as many incidents. And I would be like, those are the days that I'll try to catch up on my paperwork as much as I can. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I would make sure, because that's what statistics say, Monday and Friday, not as many incidents, usually.
Right.
Usually. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I would be out and about, just making sure I'm walking the hallways because one, I'm 40 pounds overweight, so I need to get the weight off. So I got to get my steps in. And being Jewish, self-deprecating humor, perfect for teaching.
Right.
But that's how I would envision it. And most people are like, well, what if the district pulls you for this? What if that? And I'm like, okay, there's a lot of what ifs. And part of rehab, they taught us, if you what if every situation, you get nothing done. You get absolutely nothing done.
True.
Like, what if today during the rainstorm that we had here in Florida, a tidal wave came and washed the school away? I better learn how to swim.
He figured out fast.
So in my mind, I would love for that to happen. Would it actually happen? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe some weeks it may work 3 days. Maybe some week it only works 1 day because, all heck broke loose and the kids were just having those energetic moments.
Yeah.
But as leaders, developing leaders, it's just so important to just go around and just say thank you. Don't, and I know this is easy because I'm not in the trenches with them. I empathize because I almost went that route. But as someone that's working kind of both sides of the aisle right now, if you can make administration not like the Crystal Palace that people think it is, and just actually open the doors where everybody's involved, the transparency level is just so important. Like when admin is making decisions and you don't know why they're making the decisions, like why I asked to teach this grade, why didn't I get that? You know, you asked me what courses I want to teach. I'm telling you, this is what I want to teach.
Right.
Why didn't I get that? Just saying why, because, you know, maybe as simple as, well, I really think you're strong in this grade and I want you to continue there. Simple. But not telling me, then I think, okay, you either don't value me or you don't care about what I say.
Sure.
So if leaders can make the crystal palaces disappear of old and try to create more of just a communal space, like the front office shouldn't just be the principal's office and that. You should see teachers working with the front office. I mean, they even looked at a school where they have teachers earning six-figure salaries, but that's because they're doing all the jobs that support staff would do.
Yeah.
So they're the secretaries, they're the guidance counselors. And I'm just thinking, one, I don't think I could ever be at a school where the principal secretary isn't running it. And I love all the secretaries because, one, they become my best friends when I'm like, girls, I'm about to leave. I'm about to walk out the door.
Yeah.
And they're like, Hopkins, don't do that. Don't do that. So if leaders can make, and then if the leaders can do it, then teachers need to do it as well. Why is it impossible for you to just say to the kids, I'm having a bad day? Like, what problem would you have in just telling them I'm having a bad day? We asked them to communicate with us. Why can't you say that?
Right.
Why can't you say to them, listen, you're making me really upset right now. So I'm going to ask you to step outside so I don't ruin our relationship at the moment. Like, why do we have to pretend like I'm adult, you're child? Because I will tell you this, teaching has become the best form of birth control for my relationship. Best form.
Right.
I tell my spouse, we're not having children. They ask why. I'm like, 165 reasons why. And I'm honest with my kids. Like today, one of them questioned, well, why do you have to have a teacher watch us as you're dealing with a fight? And I'm like, you're seriously asking this question? And I was like, I don't want to get my apple sandwich fired.
Right. You know, here's the thing, man. You know, and I'm not sure in any other profession is there this clear of an us versus them, where, you know, when you're a student, there's us, the student, and there's them, those teachers. And then when you become a teacher, there's us, we're teachers, and them, those students, and them, those administrators at the school. And then you become an administrator on campus, and there's us, the administrators on campus, and then those teachers, those kids, and those are people over there at the central office, rather than this whole community and family that works together for one common goal. And, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, on your campus leadership team, well, that's great that you have a leadership team, but if you don't have teachers on there, that's a problem. But even more, man, if you don't have some student representatives on your leadership team that meet together regularly and talk, then those campuses, when they pull it all together and they have that kind of a family where everyone has input and they all feel significant and they feel like they matter and that they're heard and they're seen, those places are amazing. And by the way, man, like talking about getting around campus, I went to visit a high school recently, and it's a huge. They have hundreds of teachers, and you know, in Texas, we build really big high schools so we can field a better football team that way. And
I kind of wish they did that in Florida,
right? And they'll have 300-400 teachers at these schools, and there's probably a dozen APs. And at one particular school I was visiting recently, every AP, there is one day, I want to say it's every 3 weeks, where they don't get to be an AP. They have to hand over their walkie-talkie, they have to hand over the keys, and their job is to go and be in classrooms and watch teachers teach and give constructive feedback, participate in class, and just be a part of the community in that school. And, you know, it changes everything because for 95% of kids, man, they don't even know who this person is. Like, if you don't get in trouble, you don't know who the AP is. And now they're building relationships out there in the hallways, and because they're eating lunch with these kids, going to class with kids, and really hanging out all day with those kids that they're assigned. There, you know, where it might be, you know, sophomores, letter L through, you know, S or something like that. And, you know, it's a really, really powerful thing to see them not just be in charge of dishing out consequences, but to play an active role in the community. And the other thing, brother, when you were talking about, the most effective school leadership teams I've seen on the administrative level, I've seen are those that they're committed and they talk about it every day to their role as a servant, serving their teachers. Like whatever it takes for you to be more effective and more happy in your classroom, I don't care what it is, I will figure out a way to make it happen. And those are the teams that in the schools that are just they're incredibly successful and incredibly effective.
So if you look at that poster with your Teach Like a Rock Star,
Yeah,
so if you look at that poster in the background,
yeah,
so notice how it's a cup, which I call the Holy Grail,
right.
and there's wings about it. The band that pops up the most, and it's probably because Bohemian Rhapsody came out,
Right.
is Queen.
Uh-huh.
You can't have just Freddie Mercury without Brian May. You can't. You just can't. So imagine Freddie May or Freddie Mercury.
Man, you just made him one dude.
Just combine them all. Freddie Mercury is your principal.
Right.
A principal cannot just do a solo career without your Brian May, and then your bass, and then your drummers. And that's why, and I'm saying this to your listeners, when I have a bad day, I go and look at that emblem. And I look at it, I'm like, one of these days, if I'm in charge of a school,
Yeah.
I'm doing Queen.
There you go.
We're going to do a Queen. And I look at that emblem, and I think to myself, we have the wings because we do make miracles happen. Not all the time. And those stakeholders that are not in teaching need to readjust their expectations, because miracles don't happen every year, and they don't happen just because one person does it. It's a whole team effort. Then I look at the chalice. If everybody puts in their positive energy all the time, admit when we're down, admit when we feel like failures, if all of us did that, then the wings and the cup combine, and then we're Queen. We hit the Bohemian Rhapsody. We do the We Will Rock You. We do Radio Gaga, and then we just go crazy at Live Aid, and then we get our student achievement.
Done. You got it all figured out, man.
See, I have it figured out, but how? I have to get there.
Right.
But that's why, I'm going to turn this into a little bit of a gushing session.
Yeah.
That's why when you responded to me, I had the worst day. Like the worst day. Not in my career, because the worst day of my career was when I got fired. But it was just a horrible day. And then you took the time to respond to me. I was like, oh my God, Hal Bowman just responded to me. Because literally, I want Teach Like a Rock Star to come to my district.
Yeah, me too.
I want it to happen, but again, I don't have the purse strings. But you reached out to me, and it kind of showed a transparency that, for example, the Kagan people are like the Kagan people.
Yeah.
You're not going to reach out to individuals. But you made time to reach out to me when I felt my lowest. I didn't say it to you, but I felt really defeated. And you just said, you have that passion. You have that drive. You got to keep on doing it. Imagine as a leader, when you see that one teacher that is maybe writing referrals, too many referrals, or maybe it's just coming in with a negative attitude, and you just pull them aside, not as a disciplined conversation, but just saying, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Let's have coffee. Let me get my Keurig going. Let's have tea and coffee.
You know what it is also, man? It's also that right there. I mean, that conversation with that teacher and supporting that teacher is critical for sure. It's awesome. But what's maybe equally, I don't know, it might be more important, is in that moment, what that school leader is doing is modeling what they want that teacher to do with their most challenging kid. Taking the time, because all behavior is caused by emotion. And for that teacher who's struggling, and we can see a struggling teacher by what they're doing and those actions, well, there's an emotion that drives those actions, but it's the same thing for a kid, just like on an amplified level. So we know that kid that is struggling or acting out or underperforming or whatever it is, there's an emotion that drives that behavior. So it's all about taking time to connect with that kid and figure out what that emotion is. And there's no better way to do that than modeling for a teacher as a leader what it's like to take time for that teacher. I always tell people, I had a principal yesterday asking me, she asked me, it was at a high school, she asked me, what can I do to get my teachers to greeting kids at the door coming and go? When kids come into the classroom, I want my high school teachers greeting kids at the door. And I asked her, I think that's great. What % of the time are you standing at the door in the morning greeting teachers as they're coming into the building?
And not just marking them late.
Yeah, because if you really want to see that, you have to model what that looks like. They have to experience so they can want that for their kids. It's critical, man.
Well, and that's why both Jackie Haynes and then another important woman in my career, Elizabeth Bretz, who was at the charter school that I worked at before I went back to the district, who actually got me kind of back on my feet and gave me the inspiration to go back. Every day they were visible. Every day they were visible. They would come by, just say hello. Even if they were mad at the world, they would at least come by and wave at me.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was like, okay, I need to make sure I'm visible, because what if I see that kid that's about to start posturing and start puffing up and saying, oh, I want to fight you? Okay, I can kind of zero in on that and say, who you mad at? Who you mad at? And get them laughing.
Right.
Because I'm like, listen, I'm corny as hell. So if you go with that corniness, I tell the kids all the time. If you think I'm weird, you're right. If you think I'm crazy, I'm certifiable. If you think that I'm trying to get into your business, not really, I'm not, because I don't have that much brain capacity, but I just want to make you laugh, even if you're laughing at me.
Yeah, I'll take it, for sure.
Yeah, throw the tomato. I'll make tomato sauce.
Right.
I'll do that. But it's so important. And instead of, like, for instance, when the kids are dropping F-bombs in the hallways, I just go like, ugh, my ear. And they're like, what's your problem? I'm like, sorry, my ear bleeds every time you use that language. Right. And the kids are like, and I've even said to the kids, when you guys are out in the hallways, I can't control what you do. It's like watching cars go by. All I can do is when you come into the classroom, in my house, we want to use better language than that.
Yeah.
Out in the hallway, I can't control that unless it's a school expectation. I can't control that. And why am I going to waste energy trying to control that? I'm going to just ask that when you go by me, if you're using that language and my ears start to bleed, you need to go and get a tissue and come and pat it down.
Hey, clean me up, man. Yeah, I think that, especially with those kinds of kids, and especially the high school, like I'm having a talk with a 17-year-old kid who's been to jail about his language. That's not really, so man, the best I can do is talk about time and place. Look, man, everybody, like I know you don't think it, but I guarantee everybody uses that kind of language. Maybe not as often as you do, or it might take an injury for that word to come out of the mouth, but it's going to come out. There's a time and place for everything, man. And right here, right now, in front of all these people is not the time. Man, if you're out behind the double wide, because we're overcrowded, we teach in double wides. If you're out behind my trailer, but back there, well, that's fine. If it's just you and the fellas, go ahead, man. But all these young ladies, we have freshman kids here. And, that time and place thing. But, man, the other thing I think we lose sight of the importance of is the hallway. I can tell you, man, I've been some schools across the nation. They take that 6-minute passing time they take it just as serious as class time. And in fact, one school I was just at, we changed the whole it sounds so simple, but it's really deep. We just changed the name of passing time to family time. And so there's 6 minutes of family time, and family time happens between every class. And because it's family time, everybody's in the hallway. Teachers aren't at their desks. They're not getting ready for the next class. They're in the hallway spending family time. We have 6 minutes of family time, and it really changes everything. And so as much as we think about what we're doing in our classrooms at that school, they think about what we're going to do during family time.
I would have never even thought of that.
Man, there's
one year when I was a student at Blake, they played music on the intercom during passing time.
Yep. You know what? I was just at a school, man, at Bear Branch Junior High. I did my Be the One event. In fact, I'm going there Thursday to hang out. And
they are incredibly lucky. I would give you my kidney.
Get this, man. They have like just a few minutes of passing time, it's just enough time to wheel the cart out into the hallway, and they do karaoke in the hallway in between classes. They have like 3 or 4 minutes, and that's just enough time for a song to everybody get around the mic and they sing a karaoke. This is at a public school junior high, man, not a magnet or anything, and they love it, man. I mean, it's and people think there's a lot of reasons that they think they have such high achievement at that school. One of the big reasons they have such a strong culture of having fun together as a school, as a family. That's the biggest reason, man.
Well, let me ask you,
Yeah.
do you think fun is the wrong word to have in a school?
Hell no.
And that right there,
Dude, I'm in it for the fun. It's supposed we're learning. It's what's more fun than that.
I want to have fun too. Like, for instance, a lot of my kids, when they see intensive reading, they're like, this is not fun. I'm like, okay. I look at it this way. I'm trying to make it fun by putting in little clips. Like today, my 8th period, which 8th period at the end of the day, everybody that teaches an 8th period, we all need to join a support group because 8th period is just rough. Everybody has that one rough 8th period.
Yep.
At the end of the day, everybody wants to go home. And so what I did today, I was like, they really respond to Tyler Perry's Medea. Let's watch a clip of Medea, laugh at it, and then write about it.
Yeah.
And they responded, and they did it. It took them some time to kind of settle down, and I had to say, okay, I'm going to put a minute on the timer. If by a minute you all aren't quiet, then we're going to book work.
Yeah.
But it's like,
dude, you're even better than me. You're like you even have like academic focused stuff. Listen, man, I have no problem investing up front before a class starts of nothing but pure fun for no apparent reason. Bro, we'll do the Cupid Shuffle for 3 or 4 minutes. I mean, like deep in just for fun, just so we can establish that we're all in this together. And, I'm going to embarrass myself in front of the kids. So that way I'm vulnerable and I can ask of them what they're uncomfortable with now because I've been uncomfortable in front of them. It's, dude, and plus, here's the thing. I want kids to be conditioned to associate that emotion of simply having fun and playing, even as a teenager, with learning. Because when they associate fun and playing with learning, we're going to have a lot deeper learning. Here's the challenge, man. So many teachers were successful students because they thrived in an environment where they sat in rows and columns by alphabetical order and did what they're told. And because they were successful in that, in their reality, that's the only way to be successful. Well, in truth, the way to be successful is to have a good time and be passionate about whatever it is you're doing, and learning is no different.
And so I would totally be all for what you suggested about the Cupid Shuffle. Where I'm stopped is the fear of getting a poppin'.
Yeah, I don't care about that, man.
Well,
I'm too old.
I'm an overachiever.
Yeah.
But the tone of the districts across the nation, it's like rigor, rigor, rigor. Okay. Why is it not rigorous to look at a Cardi B song and analyze it for tone and mood? Why is it that not rigorous?
I agree, man. Here's
okay.
the man.
Why is it not rigorous to, instead of looking at To Kill a Mockingbird with a kid that has a Lexile 600, that instead you read Divergent?
Exactly, man. Here's the thing. I'm down with rigor, but if you just think about it, even just logically, are we really going to create a more rigorous curriculum for a kid who hates school and isn't successful already? We're just going to make that kid hate it even more and become even less successful than what he already is. But if I can connect with a kid and get him to love my classroom, love me, love being a part of this family, and look forward running down the hallway to get to my class because he knows we're going to have fun, and then I can become rigorous and increase my level of rigor academically in terms of achievement in my class.
And right now, I'm coming in mid-year, so I had a whole set of challenges, including disabling the nomophobia that these kids have, which is an actual disease. Nomophobia is a disease. It's the fear of not having your cell phone.
Oh my gosh.
Right here. My cell phone's right here.
I got it. Look, brother, I ain't playing. I'm right here. I got you.
I'm addicted. but trying to show them that. And I even challenged them, like, if I'm asking you not to look at your phone for 4 times, okay, I have to follow suit.
Yeah.
And we all failed. And I was like, okay, why did we fail? So coming in mid-year to a situation where, one, the culture's been established, but it's a toxic family culture. The toxic family culture. And then me coming in like a whirlwind to try to change it. The stuff that I would love to do like that, like I'm all about games. I'm a video gamer. Kingdom Hearts 3 right now is ruling my life.
An addict.
I love it. It's like, the only part I don't like is there's too many cutscenes.
You need an intervention, man.
What?
I said you need an intervention.
No, not really.
Those only work when you're ready to quit. You're just not ready to quit the game.
Oh, I mean, I don't play it that much.
Okay.
Because Thursday nights is also RuPaul's Drag Race.
You have a big to-do list.
So I put that out there, but also it's because, one, it prevents me from going crazy, and two, it also allows me to kind of just let loose and have fun, that the next day I go in with the kids,
yeah,
I can laugh at something. And a lot of these kids are video gamers. And a lot of people are kind of decrying this movement of, well, we have to make education like gaming. Well, okay, I get it. Jobs aren't like games. I get that sometimes. But if this is how a kid learns, why not try?
Yeah.
Why not try it?
Hey man, have you seen? I posted it yesterday, and I've even messaged with this young lady. She is a wonderful young teacher. She's in Hawaii. I posted it. Have you seen her chart that she made with how many times the cell phones went off in her class?
Yes.
Powerful, man. So, for those of you listening who haven't seen it, check it on a post. What's today? 26th. So I posted on the 25th, and so scroll down there, and she is in Hawaii. She had all of her kids in her classroom turn up their notifications on their phone for everything, and they kept a running total on a piece of paper, hanging on the chart, and it is covered in those fence posts, man. On hundreds and hundreds upon hundreds, Snapchat, email, Instagram, Facebook. What kid is on Facebook? I mean, text messages.
Can I just ask, when did Facebook become passe?
When
did I miss that?
I don't know, man.
I'm like one like the last year I was at Blake before I left, Facebook was the rage. And then I come back to the charter school and they're like, no, we did Snapchat.
Right. Here's the thing for me.
And I'm like, what the heck happened?
Facebook is the only place you can have like a conversation back and forth, and a lot of Instagram is too hard. Twitter, I can't figure that thing out. And besides that, man, I've got like a couple thousand followers on Instagram, a couple thousand on Twitter, but I got like 55,000 followers on Facebook just because it's so easy to access these people, and they can post and they can message and I can communicate. And so I developed these friendships across the nation. But I hear it's
I feel very honored that you reached out to me.
Dude, you're awesome. Of course I did.
Well, no, but like seriously, and your listeners are probably like, oh my God, why is he fangirling so much? I am like been looking forward to this because like when I watched your videos, the first time I started hearing about Teach Like a Rockstar and I started watching the videos, I was like, I know they're teach like a champion, but I want to teach like a rock star. I want to do that. Why can't I do that?
Wait, man, you can do your hair's on fire, a champion, a pirate, or a rock star. Come on.
I like Teach Like a Pirate because, I like putting on the Johnny Depp dreads.
And besides, Dave's awesome, man. I love that guy.
I did the Engage Like a Pirate, which was talking about gamification.
Uh-huh.
I had this whole thing set up. We had bosses. We had mini quests. But that was tiring. That was very, very tiring.
It's an effort.
But what it is that I feel like and Governor DeSantis in Florida right now is really shaking things up. Like he said, no more Common Core.
Yeah.
Which we're all like, oh, okay, what are we going to do then? And he's just shaking things up. He's like, we need to go back to the basics. We need to do career education. We need to increase private school vouchers. And we're like, huh, what?
Yeah.
That's not going to help. But I'm trying to start thinking, like, will that then allow for engage like a pirate being essential training?
Sure.
Teach like a rock star being summer development. And then maybe, hopefully, we'll get to the point where our professional development days are about professionally developing the family. Like that family time.
It really is, man. It's all about, I mean, here's the thing, man. I tell people all the time, it's so obvious that no one really, it's so, you know what it is, man? It's so incredibly easy to quit a job, but it is monumentally painful to quit a family. And when you have a family, a school the culture of that school comes together, all for the same cause, and you feel like you matter, and you feel like you play a significant role, and it changes everything about the culture of that campus, because it all trickles down to the kids, and then in turn those kids feel a part of the family. They feel like they matter. They feel like they have a voice there. And when you find those schools, and I've been a part of one of them in my quarter century, man, of teaching, man, one school did that just happen. And now that we know the recipe, like now that we know how schools create that, I mean, it's people think it happens like somehow the moon and the planets align, but it's like a strategic, well thought out, conscious approach to making that happen. And you're right, man. We really need time to put that together for our teachers and for our kids.
And I think that's where my research is starting to go about, if you're going to socially, emotionally develop the kiddos, what are you doing for the teachers? How are you developing them? Because, we're not robots. We're not robots. We are humans. Some of the, we did this poverty training, which was really powerful, living day to day by paycheck to paycheck. And I stopped and I said, well, what about some teachers in the building that are doing the same thing?
You ain't kidding, brother.
Are working 2 jobs in addition to teaching. And what I wished had happened, instead of them saying, well, think about how our kids are doing. How about instead think about what's going on in your life and how you can relate that to a kid. So the next time Johnny tells you to F off, you instead say, I don't think that's what you were trying to say, but what else is going on? Did you not sleep? Did you not eat? Yeah. And I found that training powerful. I just wish it would have said to us, instead of, well, think about how the kids feel. Think about how we all can feel and relate.
It's so true, man. And when we have those conversations with teachers, I think the key is like right up front. And it's so funny, but this is like the hardest thing to remember. Is, man, they're just kids. Of course they said that. It's a kid. That's what they do. They say stuff like that. And as the professional, and as an adult, even though like as those of us that are drawn to this profession are full of empathy and compassion, we're emotional people, but we really have to remember not to take it personally. Because as soon as you take it personally, there's no end to that. I mean, it's just going to get worse and worse. But if you can eliminate that taking a personal component, and like you said, really think, okay, what's going on in this kid's life? What is going on in that apartment complex? Because oftentimes, like if you dig into the story and think about who that kid's mom is, what that kid's growing up with, who's that kid around, what the circumstance, most times I think, oh my God, that kid is doing really, really well, considering all that he's up against.
The only pushback I would say is, when we do have those personal moments, instead of saying, well, don't take it personally, acknowledge why we're taking it personally.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe it's, for example, my spouse and my brother, who's actually rooming with me, said to me, you're complaining a lot. Are you taking this personally? And I said, I might be taking it personally because I expect so much better. I expect so much more from these kids.
Yeah.
But then I said to myself, well, maybe I'm taking it personally because my expectations aren't being met and I don't know why. So that then allowed me to say, okay, maybe they're not being met because of something that happened in third period. Maybe they're not being met because this is a challenging text. So what do I do when there's a challenging text? Paper ball time, let me throw it at somebody.
Yep.
No. So in that essence, I stopped taking it personally. But I think as educators, we also have to say to each other, you can take it personally. You can. Acknowledge why, and then let's move on.
I really wish we had, I keep thinking back to restorative circles and for teachers and, especially our young teachers in the first few years. I think, if you have a 15-year veteran that has kind of figured it out and they're still in it and they're still passionate and they're still an effective teacher, I think they've figured it out, but oftentimes they don't know why or how, or is that even teachable to a younger teacher at that age? But that's it's kind of became who they are. But I think with our youngest teachers of all, because you have to remember these people are just a few years removed from high school, man. Like they're 22, whether that's 4 years ago, they're in high school, and
Dude, stop making me
emotionally,
feel old.
right?
Stop making me feel
Dude,
old.
I'm 51, man. So listen, I'm up there.
Listen, you're 30 like me. You're 30 like
If
me.
you say 50, 50 is the new 30. And, but, I keep thinking about those kids, man. And like, it is, I think we do an amazing job welcoming them into the profession. Like we cheer for them on the first day. Hey, look, here's Susan, and she's a first year teacher. We applaud, and and she gets some flowers for being But then you know what, man? By Wednesday of the first week, we forgot about that girl, and you are on your own because we're in the grind now. Like the school year started, we got discipline going on, and oftentimes we'll pair that kid, not a kid, but that first year teacher with a mentor. But for what? Because they eat lunch together once in a while, and then it's over at the end of the year. Man, I think it's a 3, 4, 5 year process to bring someone into this profession and take care of them, not just professionally, but also personally and emotionally. Take care of that person.
Well, in Japan, because my first thesis was on why is there a teacher shortage. And in Japan, they do a 5-year mentorship where the first 3 years are very intense, and then four and five, they start the gradual release process. But they are mentoring these teachers in a way that, one, they share a couple of classes together, meaning they're co-teachers.
Yeah.
And then that during that first 3 years, and then 4 and 5, that's when they separate. And I'm thinking, a lot of people are like, well, we got units, we need all these kids and teachers. If you have a first year teacher and you can make a co-teaching happen with the understanding that the mentor knows, okay, I'm going to eventually step away and you're going to take over for maybe a week, and then I'll take over for a week. Think about how impactful that would be. And maybe you don't stay with the same mentor for 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are jiving together, then yeah, stay for 3 years. But I think in our American system, we are so focused on success and positive data uptrends that it's like, okay, you got to just throw the new teacher into the trenches. You just got to throw them in there and they'll learn how to swim. And like you say, the first day we're cheering, and then it's like, but how are we making sure that they're going to come back next year?
Right. Or even by spring break or Christmas. I mean, lots of them leave at Christmas. And you're right, man, the teacher shortage and the fault, I read an article today in Oklahoma. They have, over the last couple of years, since I want to say it was the last 2 years, 3 years maybe, they've lost 30,000 teachers. 30,000 have left, either to go to another state or just left the profession because they can't afford to teach. Dude, they only have like 50-something thousand teachers. They've lost over 60% of their teachers, or right at 60% of teachers in just the last few years. I think it is a national, just a catastrophic event that we just don't spend enough time talking about.
I don't think we want to talk about it because then we admit that we failed.
And besides that, it's a terrifying proposition that the leaders of tomorrow are sitting in these classrooms today, and we're not taking care of those people that have accepted the honor and privilege to stand before those kids and make a difference in their lives, and we're letting those teachers down. It's a terrifying proposition.
But also, I think and it comes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have this need for success in this country, and anytime any part of it is threatened, we don't talk about it. We're too Puritan for that. Jews, we talk about it all the time. Italians talk about it all the time. We talk about our problems so we're blue in the face, to the point that I say, Mom, stop calling me, stop texting me. I get it, leave me alone. But for some reason, it's a blame game. And as I said in the blog post, and I said hyperbole aside, I even told the moderator this. I was like, hyperbole aside, these broken bones are being replaced with Band-Aids. But eventually the broken bones are going to lead to organ failure and then ultimately death. We can't let public education die. There are some times that, yes, I will be honest, I've gone on to job postings and I've looked, training consultant and whatnot, because I'm like, it's just the demand's becoming too much. But then I see your memes. I talked with this assistant principal whose philosophy, we share the same philosophy. And I say, I can't abandon that. I can't walk away knowing that I tried all I could, but then I let the demand overtake me. And this year, I'm really trying not to worry about test scores. I'm trying to say, I've done my best, and my best is good enough.
Man, I think we look at it on an individual basis, and on an individual basis, you know what it is I am absolutely convinced that the teachers like you know what? There's a friend of mine, and her name is Kim, and we talked about this at length and in depth, and she said, and I remember she sent me a message saying, "Here I am. I'm sitting in my car. The kids have all left. It's the last day of school. I feel like I've let them down. I don't think I gave them my best this year." And I said, Kim, listen, man, like you gave the absolute best of whatever you had to give on that day. Like every day you went in there, whatever it was that you had to give, you gave 100% of whatever that was you had on that day. And that's the way to look at it. And even with test scores, brother, people think, I really wish people could come on the road with me and see what I see at these schools. Those schools that are killing it, like across the board, these are big districts where they might have 60, 70 schools in their district. So they have all different populations, all different demographics, different schools, and they're killing it across the board. When I show up in August and I do back to school convocations and all that, and the superintendent gets up and he does his talk or she does her talk, those amazing schools, they don't say a word about test scores. Those schools that are struggling, that's all they talk about when they get up and the superintendent takes the mic. All he talks about are test scores. And people think those schools that are so successful, the reason they don't talk about test scores is because they're so successful. But I'm telling you, it works the other way. The reason they're so successful is because they don't talk about test scores. Like that's not their focus, and they support their teachers to be who they are in the class. Man, it really is. It's so obvious because I get to see so many schools and so many districts. It's so obvious to me, but to convince people of what's happening out there is really difficult.
So I'm just going to ask, can I be like a personal assistant and go with you to one of these awesome schools so I can do my research?
Hey, man, let's next time I come to Florida, man, you can come hang out for the week. I mean, travel around, man. It's awesome. You'd love it.
I'll meet you somewhere else. I don't mind. I'll fly out there. I'll pay my ticket. I'll pay my boarding. I'll call it doctoral research. I can write it off on my student loans.
Yeah, man. Here's the coolest part is when I'm on a campus and I walk in and listen, I have like people that come on the road with me, some travel assistants to help try, push gear and get on the plane and all that stuff and drive. And so in fact, there's been Matthew and Veronica as of recent, and even Veronica, like she hasn't been a teacher. She doesn't know anything about schools and she went to high school, went to college. That's about it though. But she got to the point where she could walk onto a campus and within 4 or 5 seconds walk through the door, and she would look at me and she goes, "Wow, you got a lot of work to do here." You can just feel it. And the same thing for those amazing campus. You can walk in and go, "Wow, man, this is the place." Because it's no different than a teacher walking into a classroom. Being on so many school campuses, you can take 4 steps into the building and you can feel what's happening inside of those classrooms, up and down the halls. It's
And,
palpable.
and we go back to culture. They're always saying build relationships with students, build relationship with students. And I agree. And I believe in it 110%. That's why today I said with my fourth period, you all are going to do independent work. You six, we're going to talk. You six, we're going to talk. And if if I had a pop in that day, I'd have a lot of explaining to do.
You'd
But
get
I would
that.
have defended.
You'd get that see me note.
Oh yeah, I'd gotten that see me, and I'd be like, see this though, or see me out the door as I go to another school that probably needs me. Um, but we got it. If we want our students to work hard, we got to make sure our team works hard. And in a school where it's like, as you said, 300 to 400 teachers, I ask you this: does the principal know each and every name of those 300 to 400 teachers? If the answer is yes, then my next question is, have you gone and thanked them at least once a month?
Yep.
Like you just got on your golf cart and you went out there. Or like, for instance, the copier, this year the district made a mandate that copier paper had to be self-supplied.
Wow.
So as a leader, I would have been like, okay, where can I take the most from? Or I would even put my own money in it.
Yep.
I would have been like, I would really like to make sure that my teachers have copy paper. My spouse would be mad at me that I'm putting money into it, but I know that's an essential. And if I'm showing I'm investing, then maybe the department heads will look at their budget and then invest in it as well. So it's just, if you want your culture to work, you got to work on the culture within your team.
It's everything. And you know what, man, that is a learned skill. I think for some leaders, it's a natural, like they get it. But listen, man, I had a really, really effective principal. I'm not going to call out her name because I don't want people to know what was going on behind the scenes. But we had a heart-to-heart conversation, and she told me, she said, "Listen, Bowman, my belief is when you're a teacher, that's your damn job. Go teach, and you teach well, you teach effective, and I shouldn't have to pat you on the back and cheer you on." Like, she goes, "That's how I really feel, but I understand how they think, I understand how they feel, I understand how they work." So she had a system where she had a scheduling software on her computer that would come up, write this person a thank you note today, call this person, send this person an email, and every day she spent like 20 minutes fulfilling all these tasks. And throughout the year, every teacher, and there was over 350 of us in that school, every teacher got a thank you note. You got random emails. You got a little gift in your box. There's a cookie, thinking about you. And she goes, "I don't want to do any of this. I hate doing this, but I know if I do it, they're going to teach more effectively for those kids. And that's why I do it." So I think sometimes we think, like, this leadership has to be this natural thing that they come in, but really, man, it's a strategy, it's a learned skill, and those most effective leaders have developed that over time.
Well, and I think also, why is it so hard for us to just say, like, give a compliment about a fellow staff member? Like, I would send emails to the principal saying, I loved what this person did, and I would send that. And well, let me rephrase that. There was one culture where it was actually celebrated, and we call it a pause up moment. I was like, yes, the Lady Gaga reference. I'm so happy. I was like, pause up. But I'm like, I really want to bring that back to the culture I'm at, because I'm like, there's a lot of great stuff going on. And when we're in the thick of it, just go like, dang, you kept your class under control, and you kept the hallways under control. Mad props. Or, I loved your enthusiasm today at the faculty meeting because you made me smile. Why is it that hard? Because there's some districts, I can tell you this, you send a thank you email after an interview, no one responds.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, like, that is a cultural thing. And here's the best part about culture and all that you're talking about is, and I think this, it's one of those things that once they experience it and feel it, they buy into it. But you have to do it. You have to really get committed to it. And that is the understanding that which you give away is what you become. So when you are complimenting those teachers about being enthusiastic in this faculty meeting, or hey, I walked by your classroom and you were deep into teaching, man, you were so passionate and enthusiastic for your kids. Just the fact you gave that compliment, that creates a more passionate and enthusiastic you. And when you encourage enough other people, that is, you are building courage in your own life. And so when that gets going on campus and everybody 100% buys in and believes it, I'm telling you, man, I've seen it time after time after time. It is a culture that is an immediate shift that happens overnight. And people think, man, this like a cultural shift takes years. Man, I'm telling you, it happens in an instant.
And it just begins with a simple thank you.
It really does. Hey, listen, man, I gotta shut it down, man. I've got kids to put to bed, and
I have cats that are probably about ready to tear up the house.
dude, listen, man, I can't thank you enough, and man, I really, really appreciate you taking the time, and more than that, taking the time with me, but the all that which you invest into your kids and their lives and the passion with which you do it. And I really, really thank you for teaching school and making a difference in the lives of those kids.
And I appreciate one, including me as in a part of this, because literally it was the biggest fangirl moment of my life. And two, you make such a positive impact, even with those simple memes. And I have a challenge for your listeners, if they're okay with accepting this challenge. Say thank you to one student this week. Just say thank you. It could be thank you for paying attention for most of the class. Then say thank you to a colleague. Just say thank you to a colleague. Thank you for, covering me while I ran to the bathroom. And then say thank you to your admin. Because if you want to see that change happen, sometimes you got to do it first and then it catches on. And just, say thank you. I went through couples therapy because, as Jews, we have to do that before we get to the altar.
Part of the deal.
Yeah, the rabbi said the most important things that you can ever say is, I hear you, I understand, and thank you. If you say those things, you can most likely de-escalate every conflict you're in.
I love it.
Unless it's about money, then it becomes a little bit tougher.
That's true. All right, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a
Have a
great
wonderful evening.
Take care, man.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.